Hey, this is Dean Jackson. Welcome to the More Cheese, Less Whiskers podcast. And today I've got a really great conversation that we just had with Derrik Hubbard. And Derrik is a financial advisor in California. He's got a really great system that he's been using successfully to mail an invitation to the right people, a specific group of people around a radius around where he's having his workshops, inviting them to a Social Security workshop, and he gets people to come to the workshop. They come to the workshop, and from there, they end up meeting with him for a strategy session and becoming clients. And so we walk through the whole process of exactly how it works, and it all works within 30 days. He's, picked the list, mail the postcards. Within 30 days, he's had a number of people in his office, and now he's able to work with them in a relationship that's going to, yield a great amount of money over the course of several years and help the people maximize what they're doing in their retirement. So we spent a lot of the time talking about how to maximize that process and maybe how to lower the threshold on the front end by, instead of offering a workshop, offering a book, and then extending the relationship that we have with people to bond with them over a longer period of time and continue to offer cookies to them. So this is a really great episode to understand the workings of how each of the four profit activators in the before unit work together and how we can maximize those. So I think you're going to enjoy this one.
Mr. Hubbard, I presume.
Dean Jackson.
How are you, sir?
Oh, doing quite well. Very excited for today.
I am too. So you've listened in. You know what we've got going here, and so we got the whole hour to just hatch some evil schemes for you. So why don't you set the stage and kind of share what you're working on, and then we can expand on what you think might be the best way we can help you today.
Sounds good. So I am a certified financial planner and also a national Social Security advisor. And I have a financial planning firm in Valencia, California. And we have a separate educational arm of the company, which is called Santa Clarita Financial Education Services, which really is designed to be kind of the consumer education arm.
Okay.
It kind of is kind of a good fit for my personality.
Yeah, I'm starting to see more and more of that in the financial world. I'm working with a lot of financial advisors right now, and I see that popping up as some are working with some nonprofit organizations, some setting up separate educational wings, just like that, for the purpose of doing workshops and creating educational opportunities. So that sounds like something similar to what you've got going on here.
Yeah. It's a real good fit for my personality in terms of really loving teaching and educating, and really presenting the separate educational arm as something that people can come into that environment without having to worry about a sales pitch. Mm-hmm. And then over time, building trust to bring them into the company, which is
especially in a world where people are getting more and more sensitive to the idea of the free dinner seminar. There's no free lunch, right? That people are becoming wary of that. If you're going to get invited out to a steak dinner, it's going to be at the expense of a pitch for something.
Yeah, and so before understanding and listening to the podcast and the 8 Profit Activators, the current bulk of our clients would come through the educational courses with the Santa Clarita Financial Education Service. And it would focus just really on the in-person classroom setting where we're doing it at the local community college, and that would be filled through direct mail. But what I really realized is there's 2 places where I haven't optimized that process, and one is if you've got, let's say, 5,000 pieces of direct mail or even up to 10,000 pieces of direct mail, and our current direct mail piece just talks about the class. And so I'm in the process of working with the 90-minute book to create the 90-minute book that would be, the Social Security maximization related. So
perfect. Good
I'm realizing
for you.
that we're wasting a lot of opportunity for the 5,000 to 10,000 people that see that all they're seeing right now is the fact that there's a class on a particular date, which they may or may not be able to come to. So
right. So
the
you
first
heard me
area
talk
of
about
optimization.
that for sure. Yeah.
The first area of optimization is being able to use that 90-minute book to have more people raise their hands than just the people who are wanting to or can come to a class. That's kind of the first area of optimization. And then secondly, I've realized that I really have just been focusing on those 15% that are, quote, ready to buy.
Yeah.
And have completely ignored the 85% who, may be wanting to interact within the next 12 months or 24 months.
This is great. So I'm really excited because the language, I'm hearing you explain it, and I can tell just by listening to the way you're explaining it that you got a good foundation in the understanding of how the 8 Profit Activators work, and you're aware of what's going on right now. So let's start with what's reality right now. What explain to me, sounds like you have a before unit that works to some degree. Sounds like you're doing something and it's working to get you clients. Is that right? I mean, that's the model that you're using right now. The workshops get you in front of people.
It does. And
okay. So walk me through the numbers
but I think
on
that. Well,
walk me
I
through
would
how
say that
works
our
right now. We say, how do you pick? One of the things I often ask is, if we were on, have you ever seen that show How It's Made on the Discovery Channel, where they narrate all the manufacturing processes?
Yeah.
Well, if you were on How It's Made, describing and narrating how your first 4 profit activators work here, your before unit, how it works right now, what would be the narrative that would describe it? So you starting with, in Profit Activator 1, we pick 5,000, homeowners who have, how do you select who your so, and just walk me through, and then in Profit Activator 2, what do you mail them, and then how do you engage with them? Just walk me through how that works in a typical, the numbers of how the scenario works out right now.
Yeah, so typically the first Profit Activator is focusing on those who live within a 5-mile geographic radius to the community college that we do the course, that meet a particular age demographic and financial demographic. So that's done by the direct mail company that we use out of Florida. And then those pieces go out. They have information. It's a trifold that has information about the class and a place where people go to register.
Is that the trifold that I have?
Yeah.
You just reminded me of that. Let me grab that while we're talking here.
Sure.
So carry on. Yep. So you send the trifold. It's like a brochure, like an 8.5 by 11 trifold brochure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there'll be a registration link, so people will register for the course. And then we'll have multiple days that'll occur, and we'll have anywhere between a 3/4 all the way up to a 1% response rate for registration. So that would be the Profit Activator 1.
Mm-hmm.
And really, in a sense, Profit Activator 2, because the registration really is...
Well, Profit Activator 2 is that would be Profit Activator 2, yes. That's the
raising of the hand there.
Yeah.
Of people who are wanting to come in. And then,
so that's what you
Profit
use the brochure by mail to them, and you get 3/4 to 1% of the people who you mail it to raise their hand. So that would be, you would mail, I believe I walked all the way in the other room to get that, and here it is right here. So you mail this out, and so do you mail 5,000 of them at a time?
5,000 would be normal.
Okay. And so you might get, what would you say, 30 to 50 people to respond to this?
Correct.
Okay. And what, so I'm looking at the one now, maximizing Social Security, important changes, know what you can do so you know what you should do. And then there's there are the dates, and they call to register or visit your .org website there. And what I'm looking at on the inside here, I also see that you have the can't attend. Be sure to watch the 5-minute presentation and download the 44 Social Security secrets. Are you talking about the response to the cards being, is that 75, or, 3/4 to 1% specifically for the workshop, or a combination of response?
Yeah. Now that's a good question, because what you have in front of you is a format that I actually do not use. That's actually a colleague. Okay. That's actually a colleague who has done something that has that, cheese in there for people who can't attend. So what I'm thinking through is, if I'm going to do a 90-minute book, and if that's going to be my cheese, one of my questions really is, and obviously we can continue to go through the first question of the narrative of, but one of my big questions as it relates to the use of that mailer is the fact that you've got multiple calls to action, and the direct mail company that I'm working with, I've heard you in the past talk about, postcards that go out or direct mail that goes out that's really focused on the call to action to the book, whereas this is a real big focus of the call to action to the class. And so I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to marry those two call to actions without creating too much confusion about what to do when they get it, because I only have a certain amount of real estate. That type of a trifold, you really, once it's folded, you've got one side that's the address, but the other side is really the only area of real estate where someone's going to look at it before they, maybe toss it. And I'm really trying to determine how, on that one piece of real estate, do I show these two calls to action without creating too much confusion about what to do.
Well, I always tend to have one call to action for the for Profit Activator 2, right? We want to focus on one thing at a time.
And so way that go ahead.
Mm-hmm. The way that I look at it, here's where, when you're saying to these 5,000 people, right, this is very much a, it's like a closed loop system here. And you've got the 5,000 people that are there. If you say the whole universe of the 5,000, everybody's getting that, the trifold. Now, in order to be one of the 5,000, they have to live within 5 miles of the college. They have to meet certain income and asset requirements, right? You probably they've got a certain minimum investable assets as a filtering device, right? So we know that everybody in there is at least at that level. Now, if we take almost like a bullseye, right? I think of it like concentric circles here, that you're narrowing it in, and the bullseye would be the subset of people who would end up being meeting with you in your office, right? People that end up coming to potentially become clients. So let's put that to the side for a second, and let's go right to the end result here of what happens with these 5,000. You mail them out. You get 3/4. So let's call it. Let's even go on the high side of it and say you get 50 people who respond to your mailing to the 5,000. That would be 1%. And of the 50 who respond, are they, because your offer right now is just for the workshop, right? You're not
That's
offering
correct.
a secondary. Okay. So you're focused in that. And of the people who respond, how many of the 50 will actually show up at the workshop?
Probably 90%.
Okay. So of that, so you might get 45, say, at the actual workshop. But maybe it'll be more people because they're going to bring a spouse or whatever.
Correct.
Okay. And so is that, how many people does that actually, do most of them bring a spouse with them?
Yeah, I would say 2/3.
Okay. So you end up with 60 or 70, 80 people at a workshop. Okay. Now, of the 45 potential client units that come to the workshop, then what's your next step with that? What's the offer that you make?
So there are usually 2, and one is for them to come the very next week to a retirement planning class for the purpose of helping them understand how Social Security fits into the entire context of financial planning.
Yes.
And then also would be a strategy session if they wanted to simply bypass.
Right, which would be a one-on-one in your office kind of thing, a strategy session. Okay. And then, so now what happens next from there? So you get, if we're seeing what I'm looking at, if we're kind of filling out our illustration here, we started out with a big circle that represents 5,000 people. Now, inside of that, we've narrowed with the perspective here that 50 people said, I'd like to come to that. And inside of that, a slightly smaller circle, 45 of them show up at the workshop. And then what happens next? So how many of the 45 will either come to the next week or come for a strategy session?
Well, I would say that probably 30% will come to the following week's class.
Okay.
And probably the same percent would do a strategy session.
Okay, so 60% roughly will take a next step. Is that about right? Okay.
Yeah.
So help me with the math on that. So if I'm filling in my smaller circle here, that we've got 60% of the 45, which would be, let me do the math here, 45 times 0.6 is 27. So we get, let's call it 15 of each or so, 14 of each. 14 people come to next week's session, and 14 people just skip that and come to a strategy session.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And so of that then, of the 14 that come into the strategy session, let's look at that one in isolation. How many of those people will end up becoming clients?
Let's call that 30% as well.
Okay. And so of that, so you end up with, call it 5 clients from that. Is that about right?
Yeah.
Does that sound right? Okay. And then the 14 that come to the next week's workshop, how many of them then, what's the next step for them? Or do they get a chance to become a client too? Or do they get to then come in for a strategy session?
Yeah, they'll recycle into the strategy session, but usually at a higher rate since they've now spent 2 weeks with me.
So what percentage of those would say?
So that's probably 60%, probably twice.
So 60% of those. So 60% of 14 is 14 times 0.6. So let's call that 8 of those might come in. And of the 8, then how many would become clients for you?
So there we could say, let's say 4 of them, 50%.
50%, 4. So end of the line here, if we're narrating your before unit, it would sound like we pick an area of with a 5-mile radius, 5,000 people with the right age, income, and assets. And out of that, we get 50 people to raise their hand saying they'd like to come to our workshop, of which 45 people actually show up at the workshop. And of that, we get 28 people to either come to another week's workshop or come to a strategy session. And of the 14 that come to the strategy session, we end up with 5 clients. And out of the 14 that come to the next week's workshop, we end up with 8 of them coming to a strategy session and 4 of those turning into clients. So overall, that whole process with that one mailing to 5,000 homes yields us about 9 new clients. Does that sound about right?
That may be on the high side, but I think for the purposes of what you're going toward, we can use that. Okay.
And so what are the economics of this? What is a client relationship worth? What does that turn into dollar-wise?
That can vary, but I would say if we're going to average it, it may be 6,000 the first year and 3,000 every year afterward.
Mm-hmm. So that's in your after unit, the 3,000 a year going on and on and on. So 6,000 times 9, we get 45,000, and we've spent maybe less than 5,000 on the mailing on the front end. Does that sound right, or is that about what you pay?
Correct.
Yeah. So that's a pretty good. That's running at about a 7 or 8 or 9 times ROI, right? 9 times what you're spending. And that's pretty good. That's pretty strong. So do you find that will hold out if you were to mail 10,000, or do those numbers seem like the numbers seem like that's a pretty good manageable number to work with as far as the workshops go, right?
Yeah, I think the larger the classes, the less intimacy there is in creating the connection.
Mm-hmm. And then how often can you do these classes? How often?
I've been doing them 4 times per year, but I'm thinking that they could easily be done monthly during the months that people are, besides maybe November and December.
Yeah. And I think even that, if you did it in the right time of the month, I mean, you could do it's all about the timing thing. So certainly, immediately, you've got something that is that's working. And how often have you done this with that type of predictability? Like, what's your certainty on that? Is that a pretty stable, systematic thing?
Well, I think that what's more certain at this point is the earlier stages of the number of people responding, the number of people attending, the number of people raising their hands for strategy sessions. What I'm really trying to refine and improve right now is the actual conversion rate in office. That's probably my weakest. That's probably my weakest point in the weakest link in the chain.
But even that, I mean, you're doing pretty good if you're in that 50% range. So, but that's certainly one opportunity, absolutely, where you could get more. What would be? Let's look at why they don't become clients right now. What's the? And by the way, this is all in how long from the day you send the postcards to the day that they're in your office for the strategy session. How long a cycle is this? Is this all within 30 days kind of thing?
From the time that the mailers hit to the time that we're in office, that probably is a 30-day. Yeah, that's probably a 30 to 45-day cycle.
Yeah. So that's a pretty good, predictable system. I mean, certainly the easiest thing for you to do would be to do that more. How many people, how big is that pool of potential candidates for you in your marketplace?
Well, I think
how many are there that you could do that with?
I think that there's probably a maximum of, I don't think there's more than 10,000 that are within the 5 to 7 geographic radius.
Okay. And are there other are there other neighboring community colleges that you could do the same thing, or is it?
Yeah, there are.
You're trying to particularly stay within your community. That's part of why your conversion is so high? Probably is because you're right there in the local community, right?
Yeah, and just thinking through how far do people are willing to drive in LA to get from one place to another,
right, exactly.
Come into an office.
Yeah. So of those, so you're saying there's probably 10,000 people in the demographic that you've got there that you're looking for.
Yeah, the past mail. I've done a past mailer one time of a 10,000 piece, and based upon the demographics from the direct marketing company, they had to go a little bit further, but there were close to that number that met the age and financial demographics.
Okay, I gotcha. So that gives you a good sense of what's going on here. It gives you a good sense of how big the opportunity is. Perfect. Okay, so I think that the interesting thing is going to be to see, if you could do that 6 times a year instead of 4 times a year. That would certainly be a nice thing to do. But a different approach here is when we look at our concentric circles here, we look at going from the big loop of 5,000, that our next destination, our offer, brings us down to 50 people, right? So that brings so that means that there's 4,550 or 950 people who didn't respond to your offer. Does that make sense?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got 4,950 people who didn't respond, and part of it is that they may have wanted the information, but they weren't available next Tuesday or interested at that, to come to a workshop to get the information, but would love it if they could get it as a book. And so when you look at it, that my experience in doing this has been that you can get 2 or 3% of the people who get that same mailing list. You may be able to get 100 or 150 people who would want to get the information that you're offering as a book. And that becomes a lead generating pool here, So it's not unlike the realities of what we deal with the realtors here, like you're in a geographic area where there's only so many people who meet the parameters of what you're looking for. And we're in the same situation here in real estate. So in Winter Haven, for instance, you heard me talk about the lakefront homes, right? There's 2,100 lakefront homes in Winter Haven. And that's the pool that we're looking for. And we know that they have about a 4% turnover rate. So there's going to be, 80 or 85 homes that are going to sell in any given 12-month calendar, right? So if you're picking this group of 5,000 or 10,000 people, that you can do something where you could potentially mail them something every month. Which is exactly what we do with the the realtors. It's like you look at it that if you can just get them to raise their hand, that really now starts the opportunity for you to educate and motivate people in Profit Activator 3. Because you look at the fact that the people that you're getting are literally the 15%, the ones who are ready to go right now. And the people who don't come in for an appointment or don't come in for a strategy session or choose not to invest with you right now, that doesn't mean that they're not going to. It just means that it's not right now. What are some of the reasons that people, the 50% that come into the strategy session that don't sign up with you right now? What are some of the reasons behind that?
Dean, I wish I knew the exact real reasons, because it seems to me like, well, I would say if there's anything where there can be improvement, there is, I think I'm a very logical, numbers-oriented, fact-oriented person. And so I think probably the way that I'm interacting and presenting probably is more going to work for the logical-minded, where I probably need to create some type of way of having some type of offer or irresistible offer, or we only get paid unless you get the result type of structure that is more compelling than.
And so, what is how do you present what your offer is right now? What do you present to people in this strategy session? What would be the kind of outline of that? How would that kind of break down?
So the initial conversation really is boiling down to the financial goals that they're wanting to accomplish, the financial resources that they're working with, and then in the follow-up meeting is really kind of the stress test of if their current strategy is going to accomplish the financial goals that they've set out.
Mm-hmm. And so, that, the interesting thing, and one thing I've always loved about starting the conversation with Social Security is that no matter what their financial situation, Social Security is going to be some either sliver or chunk of somebody's monthly retirement income. And that's, that's a foundational thing. It's either, a nice big piece of what they're going to have on a monthly basis, or it's a little sliver of what their what their monthly thing is going to be. But everybody is equally motivated to get as much as they can, right? They want to get what's theirs, kind of. And they don't want to make a mistake that's going to cost them money. When if they were smart, they could really maximize that. But that really then opens up the opportunity to have a discussion about the bigger picture. Okay, this is what you're going to end up with from Social Security. How much do you need on a monthly basis? What's your income goal there? And that gap then is about how do we best bridge that? What's going to be the best way? And that's where your strategy comes in, is more of let's maximize this Social Security, but then what's the best things to do to maximize the rest of it? Do you ever have any communication with the people who come to the workshop and choose not to come in for your strategy session or come back to the next workshop? What's
that's one of the big areas where I feel like we're not optimizing and maximizing not only people who, the 4,950 who don't register, but then also those who kind of fall outside the pale of
all the other people who don't come in for a strategy session or return to the workshop. So when you look at those, that opportunity, those people are sort of still in Profit Activator 3. And I say this, that Profit Activator 3 is a holding area. If we look at the purpose or the type of Profit Activators that we have, Profit Activator 1 is your sort of selection process, right? Profit Activator 2 is a gateway. It's just, we run it and they either respond and go immediately into Profit Activator 3, which is about educating and motivating, or they don't. And that's really it, right? They're not accumulating in Profit Activator 2. We're building a pool, an asset of people who have raised their hand, that we struck a chord on Profit Activator 2 that compelled them to raise their hand, to identify themselves. I want that, right? So when you said you do the workshop and they say, "Oh, I want that," and they attend, they say, I'm gonna come, then of course some of them don't, for whatever reason, make it to the workshop. Some of them come to the workshop and for whatever reason don't come to the next session, and some of those don't make a strategy session, right? So when people come to the workshop, that is sort of your Profit Activator 4 offer that is a gateway. Everything now, Profit Activator 4 is a gateway into your during unit. So as soon as somebody says yes, when you meet with them for the strategy session, that now they're a client, right? Now they're moving into your during unit. And so what we want to do is think about all the people that are here in Profit Activator 3, the ones that have raised their hand but haven't yet taken you up on one of your offers. Those people are an asset, because we know that the 85%, of the people who are going to do something are not going to do it for at least 90 days. And there's a lot of, there's a lot of reasons for that. A lot of people, they're a little bit more conservative, right? In that you're somebody that 30 days ago they didn't even know. And then they come to this workshop and they meet you, and then all of a sudden this whirlwind, and they're in your office and they're handing over their life savings to you. Yeah. That's a pretty amazing thing in itself, right? When you really think about that, and that's a testament that people are doing it at the rate that they're doing it right now is really a testament to your ability to bond and build trust with people in a short period of time. So you've got to acknowledge that you've got something, really special there. A lot of not many people have that ability to come through, for their true self to kind of come through on that, But the reason that some of these other people are not, converting into clients yet is not necessarily anything against you. It's certainly that they are more conservative, or that they're thinking about this. And you've got now, like, I wouldn't even look at it as what would you, how can you deploy a longer term follow-up program with these people, that you're bonding with them, that you're educating them, that you're continuing to educate them, even though they haven't yet kind of taken that next step. What about over the next 12 months, if you could, with a monthly newsletter and podcast and, direct mail and building a bonding relationship with them.
Yeah, I shouldn't say that I'm
more comfortable with you. Yeah.
I historically we haven't, but within the last couple weeks, what we've been doing is, with that total past participant list, sending out new financial planning or blog articles. And as of this coming Saturday, now I'm putting in that super signature at the end of it. With,
I was just going to say, good. So
options.
we need to think about what your super signature is going to be, what your options could be. What are the cookies that we talk about that are going to let people, raise their hand, that they can move forward here? So what are the offers that you can say, whenever you're ready, here are 3 ways I can help you? What are those? The 3 ways?
The 3 that I have now that will be going out is the first would be the book, the 90-minute book.
Mm-hmm. And what's your book going to be called?
I haven't had my session with Susan yet, so I'm not sure exactly what direction we're going to go.
Okay.
Yeah, just getting started. So right now it's just, get a copy of our soon-to-be-released book.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 is what I'm calling the Social Security Optimizer.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would be a session. It could be done either in office, or it could actually just be done remotely, where they provide their dates of birth and Social Security benefits, and we create a report that shows them different ways of maximizing Social Security. That's something that I've put in the super signature. It's a little bit of a 4 C's situation, where I've done my commitment, but so now eventually I'm going to be forced to create what this is. But that would be kind of a little bit of a Brit.
Well, do you have the software?
Yeah, we've got something that can easily
for people. Yeah.
Okay. I was looking for the 3 things that I was kind of looking for. Would be the first one would be like no risk easiest. Second one would kind of be the bridge, that would be a little bit of a commitment, in that we've got to maybe provide a little bit of information, but we're maybe not in the office. And then the third is the blueprint to financial success, which is the strategic coach unique process.
The blueprint to financial success. And what is that? Describe that to me, how you would articulate that for somebody.
So that's a 5-step process that we use for retirement planning. So the first step is the clarity conversation, which helps understand their dangers, opportunities, and strengths and financial goals. Then the second step is test today, and that's stress testing their current plan against their goals. And the third step is outcome optimization, where we look at areas of improvement and ways that they can bridge the gap between what isn't working in their current plan, or it could be improved. Step 4 is build from the blueprint where you actually do the implementation of all of the pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And the fifth is review regularly, where you're going back to that original plan and making sure they're on track.
Okay. So this sounds like this is actually your during unit unique process.
Yeah.
This is what you do as your during unit. So this, what we're looking for is how are we going to trigger the conversation that people want to start. So if we use our real estate example, somebody who's a home buyer, the triggers, the thoughts, the things that are going to have to be completed in their mind before the process starts here is they may want to, they may start the process by just wanting to go out and look at homes. That's one thought. They may be the kind of person that wants to really understand the whole process before they start making any moves. Like they want to understand the whole home buying process and how everything works. And there may be other people who want to get the money side of it figured out first, right? They want to maybe figure out how mortgages work and how much they can actually afford. And so every buyer is going to fit into one of those primary things, right? That's going to be the primary driver for it. So what we do is try and wrap a very easy, seemingly just easy first step to accommodate that desire, right? So the base desire is that they want to go and look at homes. Now, most real estate agents will take a situation where they'll say, if we can help you, if there's anything we can help you with, please feel free to give us a call. And so it requires that people call up the real estate agent and say, hey, would you show me some homes, right? We're expecting them to take the initiative. But if we agree that that's going to be one of the triggers, and we make it easy for people who want to look at homes to feel comfortable taking that step, we, instead of just letting them take the initiative, we bundle it up and say, join us for a daily tour of homes. We do home tours every day at 10 o'clock and 1 o'clock. And so that makes it okay. It doesn't feel like they're asking somebody to go out of their way for them, right? It's a mechanism. Oh, we can go on one of these tours. The next one that we look at, remember I mentioned people may want to know about the process. So we look at it and say, join us for a home buyer workshop. We do home buyer workshops on the first and third Thursdays of the month at the library, and we spend 2 hours going through the entire home buying process, answering all your questions, explaining everything, so you have a great understanding of how it all works. That's something that is available, right? It's something that you're accommodating for them. And then with the money, the people who want to know how the money works, we offer a free home loan report to say we constantly monitor hundreds of different loan programs all across the country to find the lowest down payment loans, the lowest monthly cost loan payment loans, the lowest interest rate loans, and the lowest total cost loans. And we put all our findings together in our custom home loan report. And so those are very easy, sounds like they're already going on ways for people to take that next step. So if we kind of take that parallel thinking here and apply it to this Social Security world, to the financial advisor, what would be the thought or the intermediate steps that people have go into a relationship with you? What's on their mind? What do people, what would trigger them? They want to know, I think that it's fair to say that they want to know exactly what they could get on Social Security.
Yeah.
Like they want to know the exact numbers, right? And so when you talk about even this idea of a Social Security optimizer is sounding like you're going to get them to think a new thought, but a Social Security report, like your custom Social Security report, is going to show them what their Social Security benefit is going to be. It seems like it's the access to the thing that they don't know how to easily access,
Yeah. So, well, they'll always have their Social Security benefit statement.
Yes.
I think
but that doesn't show them all of their options, right? That doesn't show them what
it just shows three ages.
Yes, exactly. So you've got an opportunity to really show those different the scenarios, right? To show what would happen at each of these stages. And I think that is going to be a very strong. That's going to be a very strong draw for people, right? They want to. It's kind of good for them to know, because with the facts, they're going to be able to feel more confidence in the decision, right?
So when you're talking about a Social Security report, are you referring just to letting them know what the amounts are at different ages?
I think that if you can make it seem sort of charged neutral, like when you're saying, and it's very subtle the way that this works, right? Like, so when you're looking at I think when you say like a Social Security options report sounds like it's factual and charge newneutral, right? Whereas optimizer sounds like you're trying to, I won't say game the system, or you're trying to convince them to do something different. Do you understand what I mean by that? Yeah.
Yep.
It's a very subtle thing. Like our mind, we don't want to have any kind of like, we want to address the part of their mind that wants the facts. Part of their mind wants to know the facts. They want to know what this situation is,
Yeah, that makes total sense.
And that makes a difference, when you start to think about the way these play out. So we want to look at that and see how can we, make that seem like something that's available. They just don't have access to it. You're saying like Social Security options, we have software and, direct access to lay out your Social Security options in detail at every age, not just the 3 that are presented on your statement, Yeah. And
sometimes
so to lay that out.
Sometimes I worry that if I focus just on Social Security alone, that people won't get the.
I think it's just the gateway, right? Like it's literally how you start the conversation, because now you're going to then take the conversation that leads to the next conversation, which is, okay, so if you do it at 70, and this is what you're going to end up with every month, what is the bigger, what's the bigger picture here? How's that? as far as, does that get you to where you want to be? And nobody's going to be able to live 100% on their Social Security. That's not your client. The person who say, well, they need to get to $10,000 a month, and you're showing them that their Social Security is going to get them to $3,000 a month. So how are we going to bridge this gap? Right now, you're involved in a conversation that's part of the bigger picture.
So for the class participants, would you maybe recommend that instead of the call to action being the full-blown strategy session, just the small next step of the Social Security options?
Well,
or are you thinking more in terms of people who are already in the funnel?
I want to hear more about what maybe the next step is. Like, that's one. Just like I said, with the home buyers, some of them want to look at homes, some of them want to learn the process, and some of them want to get the money straightened out before we even go and start looking at homes and get our hopes all up. I want to make sure that we're looking at homes we can afford. So, and other people, they're not worried about the money or they want to go out and look at homes, and they only deal with the money part of it once they fall in love with the house. Right? So they're some people are naturally leaning towards one way or another, And so what I was curious about was, what are those equivalents in the in your world, right? So I think that's certainly one of because we started with the Social Security to really know the Social Security options report is a great charge neutral thing that anybody would want to have, right? I would love to have that, to know exactly what I'm dealing with, Help me make sense of making my choice. That's one step. But what else? What other type of things? What other kind of conversations would come up? Like, I think that the stress test idea of, how's my current portfolio going to stand up, or how long is my money going to last? I mean, that's really the question that they want to have, right? Is really, how much is enough? Really, that's the underlying question of it all, right?
Do you feel like the portfolio stress test is a charge neutral as well?
Yeah, I'm wondering about the how could we use the words stress? How can we take stress? What are some other words of that? And so when I'm making these sort of when I'm laying these out, one of the things that I'll do is block off some time, block off a 50-minute focus finder, and I'll take a yellow pad for my journal, and I'll create a word palette that has all of the words that might, and phrases that might be something that I can draw from in this. And so stress test, that's one thing. But if we really think about the questions that people have, like if you think about what they're really asking with this is, how long will my money last, or what's the, how do you, what's the outcome of the stress test for when you do it with people? What do you, how do you do it, and what's the outcome of it?
So that would give you the age that your current investments with your current Social Security election would run out.
Okay, great. So that, I think, is the, I think that's there's different ways to articulate that. And I think that's that with some time spent in a word palette might be, there might be some word that can come up with that would be a unique process for you, because stress test is kind of a thing that
investment longevity report.
Yes, exactly. It's along that lines. But what's a word for when you look at it, that when am I going to run out of money? I mean, that's really, and when you're doing the word palette, you want to use the real words and the thoughts and what's going on in somebody's mind. What is the phrases that they're saying to themselves,
Yeah.
And that could be an interesting thing, surprise is another, I did some work with a financial advisor. We did a book called How Much Is Enough. And one of the things that we did with the postcard for that, the word palette that we came up with, and I'm going from memory here, but I think it was 3 avoidable surprises that derail even the most cautious retirement plans. And every word of that is loaded with great emotional value. There's 3, so you don't know what these are. 3 surprises that derail even the most cautious retirement plans. And cautious versus conservative, and surprises versus mistakes. So he's saying that because it's a lot of times people would say 3 mistakes that even conservative investors make is really that's a different thing, right? Surprises is a neutral, nobody's at fault kind of word. And derail is a great emotional, word for something going off track, And cautious is a better word than conservative in that situation, right? Because even conservatives or people would consider themselves cautious. That's a great thing, So I would look at this. I would look at some language around that stress test as as one great option, And I would save your unique process. I would save the blueprint to actually the next step, right? Because the goal of next thing would be to get people engaged with you in your on your next step,
If I circle back to the direct mail, one point that I'm not sure where we're going is, are you saying that there really should be one single type of direct mail that just has the class call to action?
So now we'll go all the way back, because we've talked about multiple things here. What I was just talking about was in your communicating to people in Profit Activator 3, so that those are your Profit Activator 4 offers. Your Profit Activator 4 offers are the options, your Social Security options report, and your how long till your money runs out kind of test, the surprise test. And that was one of the things we did with the, we'll put your portfolio to the surprise test. And that's kind of an interesting thing. How would you do? What would happen if you had some need for long-term care? Are you prepared for that? That's a surprise that might come up and hurt people, right? Those kind of things where you're looking at those. But when we go back to Profit Activator 2, the thing that we want to realize here is that by offering a book, if you were to offer the book to people instead of the workshop as the first step, that what you'll find is that instead of getting 0.75% or 1%, you'll get 2 or 3 times as many people who will raise their hand, because there are 5,000 people that you're mailing to. 50 of them want the information and are available on Tuesday night. And there's probably 150 people who want the information but are not available on Tuesday night. And so the people who want the information and are available on Tuesday night are a subset of the 150. So that's my recommendation, is to, in Profit Activator 2, step back from the workshop, offer the book, and then immediately invite the people who asked for the book to come to the workshop.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
The first clear call.
Yeah. So let's say that you get 150 people who respond for the book, and you immediately invite those 150 people to the workshop, and you get 30% of them to come to the workshop. You haven't missed out on anything, right? The people who are open to a workshop are still they're still within that 150 people.
You don't think that the 4,900 and some other people who may have wanted to go to an upcoming workshop but would not necessarily respond to the book?
Yeah, I think I'm saying that 2 to 3 times more people will respond for the book than the workshop.
I was just saying, if only 150 people get the invitation, doesn't that leave out thousands and thousands of people who might have come to the...
No, I'm saying that the people who would have come to the workshop are going to be within the 150 that asked for the book.
Okay.
You're not missing out. If you're on the right tone, they're going to read the postcard. They say, "Oh, I want that." And if they said, "Oh, well, I'm not going to get it because it's so easy to get as a book," if it was, you know what I mean? It's the other way around, that people are going to see it. They want it, but I'm not available, or I don't want to come to a workshop on Tuesday to get this, but I do want the information. It makes it so much easier for people that way,
Got it. So we don't necessarily need one mailing for a class and a different mailing for the book. We could do one single mailing for the book,
right?
And then the actual opt into the book is what rolls into the class.
That is exactly right. That's exactly right. So then we start engaging with those people right away and invite them to come to the workshop.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that's kind of that's a great, a great process for engaging, and that way what you get from that is you've got this asset, you've got this opportunity now to engage with these people over a long period of time. We've got, keep it in your mind that let's look at it that we're going to bond with these people over the course of a year. we're going to send them a newsletter, and we're going to continue to educate and motivate them. And every month when you send out the newsletter, you're going to say, join us for the workshop, and come to the workshop,
Because my mailing cost would be much less with a postcard rather than the trifold, do you think it could make sense to put some of that savings into Facebook ads, in targeted Facebook ads?
It could be, absolutely. Yeah.
Excellent.
You can do that same thing. So why don't you recap for me here? We've talked about a lot. We've got an hour and 15 minutes already right now. So why don't you recap what we got from that? But it's such a meaty subject, and you got a lot of opportunity here. And you've got, the good news is, to your credit, you're coming from a system that's already, every time you put in $1, putting out, $8 or $9 immediately in the first year, and creating an annuity for you of half of that every year thereafter. So, you've done a great job on that. And now we've got some great opportunity to really maximize that.
Yeah. Well, I think my first takeaway is I need to give up the worry of sending out a direct mail piece that doesn't highlight the class, but realize that the strategy of something that's very easy to respond to will help me to build possibly even higher class
definitely
attendance.
Even and I would even, don't worry about the class. The numbers that you're worried about are the class. What I'm looking at is that what's the total yield over the next 12 months from one mailing to these 5,000 homes. That's where we're really focused on. And now you get the opportunity to communicate with 150 people who were motivated by this Social Security message. That's where we get to bond with that group of people. Yeah.
And I think my second takeaway is I need to be more strategic in that my next steps for those people need to be much more charge neutral and compelling to bring more people into the conversation rather than maybe being clever or
salesy.
Bringing people to they want their blood pressure taken, and I'm telling them to take all their clothes off, and the doctor will come off. Come back in shortly.
That's right. Yeah. This won't hurt at all. Take your clothes off. That's funny. Yeah, we just need them to roll up their sleeve a little right now.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I think that you've really got a great foundation here.
Yeah.
And I think your book is going to make a big difference.
Yeah, the book, and then next week I'll be starting the email mastery. So I think that will also help the engagement process of this building list over the months.
No, that's perfect. You're making all the right moves.
Well, I appreciate all of your input and all of the insights that you're bringing to make it easier.
Thanks, Derek. Well, then I will be. I'll be in touch with you really soon. Then, if you're going to be part of Email Mastery, I'll talk to you, and we'll be able to keep the momentum going.
Fantastic. Talk to you next week, then.
Awesome. Thanks, Derek.
All right. Bye.
And there we have it. Another great episode. And this is interesting for anybody who's doing workshops or doing things that are sort of a harder first step for people. We talked all about the wisdom of opening up the gates at the beginning here by making a softer offer, giving as many people as possible the opportunity to raise their hand and start the conversation. And then really talking about the value over the next 12 months of bonding with those people and consistently presenting them with things that are going to educate them and motivate them, and then keeping our super signature offers right in front of them. So I hope you really got a lot out of that episode, and I look forward to bringing more just like that for you. If you'd like to keep the conversation going here, you can go to morecheeselesswhiskers.com. You can download a copy of the More Cheese, Less Whiskers book. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show so we can hatch some evil schemes for you, just go to morecheeselesswhiskers.com and click on the Be a Guest link. That way I'll be able to see that you'd like to come on the show. We can spend a whole hour hatching some evil schemes for you. If you'd like to see how the profit activators all fit for your business, you can go to profitactivatorscore.com and to take the Profit Activator Scorecard test. You can see exactly where you stand, where the opportunities are in your business, and along with it comes a copy of the Breakthrough DNA book and the Profit Activator Scorecard book. So those are great ways for you to take the next steps. Look forward to talking to you next time on More Cheese, Less Whiskers.